Hello, happy Friday, everybody. It's been a minute since I have gone live on the Lady Boss Show. Welcome to another episode of the Lady Boss Show. No, I have not stopped doing the show. I can't stop doing the show. I can't stop doing the Lady Boss Show. So I just took like a little bit break because some of you may not know that the Lady Boss Show is also on the radio. We're on iWorship 96 FM. So I have been kind of trying to balancing the two. So I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of talking tonight or anything. If you are watching me from Periscope, shout out to those on Periscope and on Facebook. Feel free to like and share this. Share this episode out because I'm going to be talking to a young man, a minister, and an author pertaining to his book. And you know, the Lady Boss Show, we're all about having discussions. I told you I like to have discussion with men and women who are walking in their gift. And we like to focus on lifestyle, entertainment, and business. So part of lifestyle is ministry. Ministry is a lifestyle, whether we want to accept it or not. And it plays a significant part of our lifestyle. Especially those who are been raised in church or those who have shifted towards the church, towards the Lord. You know how significant it is. So my guest tonight is Justin White. He wrote this book. It's called Conversations by Justin White. And I read this book. I was intrigued by it. So we're going to have a little discussion about this book. Okay, so let me bring my guest in so you all can meet him. Hi, Justin.
Hi there. How you doing?
Welcome to the Lady Boss Show. I want to start off with you just telling us just a little bit about yourself before we get into your book.
Yes. Well, my name is Justin, as you said. I am a proud graduate of Nyack College, graduated with my degree in psychology, so that is great. I'm a native of New Jersey, but I currently am living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm an urban missionary working with an organization called Urban Impact, where we reach inner city and at-risk youth. We reach about almost 2,000 youth every year with programs in performing arts, education, athletics, and we use those programs as a tool to minister to them and minister faith. And there are many of them who don't know Christ, but through our programs, some of them are unchurched, but we share the gospel with them. So that's something that I do, but yeah, just a little bit about myself.
That's good. So you have an outreach program. So you're all about outreach ministry, period.
Yes,
correct?
I love outreach.
Yeah, it's very significant to go beyond the walls of the church. I don't know about you, but when I got into the church, got introduced to Christ, I saw how a lot of people were trying to be superstars, trying to be like well known. Or create their own little group and get popular in the church. When I stepped out from that church and began to branch out, that's when the Lord started showing me it's more than just behind the pulpit. It's more than just in the church. You got to go out, to bring the people in. So tell us, Justin, when were you called into the ministry? Because you were a very young man. How did all of this come about?
Well, this came about, I was 15. When God called me to ministry, and I was in my Bible just kind of flipping through, and it took me to a passage of scripture in Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5. And God was speaking to me, and it was random to me, and I was like, okay, this is weird, because God was commissioning me, telling me of the things that I would do. And I was like, okay, this is a little weird. So I closed it and okay. So I came back to it the next day, opened up my Bible, same page. I didn't have a bookmark in there, but the page opened up to Jeremiah 1 and 5. And then the next day, Jeremiah 1 and 5. So I'm like, okay, God, you're trying to speak to me after a while. And so that was the beginning of my calling, or how God was calling me. But then skip a couple of years later, something I didn't mention is that I come from the Cathedral International in Perth Amboy, New Jersey. That is my home church under Bishop Donald Hilliard Jr. So I want to give him a shout out and much respect. He is a great, great leader. Under his leadership, I was I didn't express my call to anyone, but the leaders of the church, they have great discernment, and they
Yes.
saw that
Mm-hmm.
that God had called me. And so at 17, I was invited to be a part of a year-long leadership development process. I was a senior in high school at the time, and so that was very interesting, going from, uh, you know, algebra in the morning and, on the weekends being in systematic theology classes. That was very interesting. And so we did that. And at the age of 18, I was licensed as a minister of the gospel under the hand of Bishop Hilliard. So it's been an interesting journey.
Wait a minute, back up. What math did you take? Say that math again.
Did I say algebra? I think I said algebra.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Was it statistics or?
It wasn't statistics. I didn't take statistics until I got to college.
Okay.
And math, that's not for me.
No, because I took statistics too in college. I do not care for statistics.
No,
I don't care for
it's
all
not
that.
of
And I
God.
took in high school, my senior year in high school, I took algebra with trigonometry.
Okay.
And that actually that's a mess too.
Yeah, trig. I never had to take trig, thank God.
Yeah, and it actually, but you know what? It actually helped me to get placed out of taking math class, period, in college, because that's what was exactly on the entrance exam was that trigonometry. So when you mentioned them certain maths, I'm like, wait a minute, what did you repeat to me? If you already said it, I missed it. What did you major in
I
your
majored, yes, I majored in psychology. So as a part of our major, we had to take prerequisite classes, and one of those classes was statistics. Because you're learning about data, you're learning about like surveys and different things like that. So you can't major in psychology without taking statistics. But I'm not much of a math person, but I am a people person. So it helped me to understand people better. And so I still appreciate having that in my background.
Oh yeah, all of it helps. All of it helps. So tell me, Justin, I read your book. What made you want to write this book here? What prompted?
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote the book. Well, I'll give the backtrack story. I was in Georgia. My college roommate, he is from Georgia. He has a church there. In Stone Mountain, Georgia. And so every year they have a youth explosion. It's a big deal. And so we were there at Messiah's house in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And after, serving and ministering and leading worship, and there was great preaching, all of us, I talk about this a little bit in the book. We did what any sane person should do. We went to Waffle House. And if you haven't been to Waffle House, you really should. We went to Waffle House and we had some great food, but even more than that, we had very great discussion. And so we were just talking about our experiences being young, but also being in ministry, kind of balancing the two things at the same time. Because all of us, something that we had in common is that not only did we serve in our local churches, but we also were very active in campus ministry. And so I was the director of our gospel choir for 3 years at Nyack College. That was a great experience. And we had our other friend, my friend Michael. He was a worship leader. Other friend Alyssa, she was a worship leader. And my friend Patrick, he was serving and faithful to God. So we all were very active in ministry. So we were talking about balancing the weight of being a young person that, you are young, but at the same time, you are a person who is called to things that other people who are your age, they might not have much of an interest in. And so how do you balance being a authentic young person, but at the same time being someone who can obey God and do what God is telling you to do? So sometimes, you're doing two things at once. You find yourself in circles trying to be the best that God has called you to be, but at the same time, you don't want to be known as the 20-something-year-old person. Like, you want to be a young person.
Oh yeah.
Like, some people think that in order to be,
they call you got an old soul.
Yeah, you have an old soul. And
I'm fine with that now.
Yeah, I'm fine with having an old soul, but I just want to be real. I want to be authentic so that I can reach others for Christ. So how do you have that balance? And so you have personal things that you go through that we don't always talk about, things that go on behind closed doors
Mm-hmm.
that we can't fully express. So I wanted to write this book sort of as an outlet to speak and to connect with those who are in
Mm-hmm.
ministry at a young age, but don't know what to expect. But at the same
Right.
time, those who are in ministry and they don't feel like they have a voice to speak.
Right. And sometimes they may feel like no one understands them, or
Absolutely.
I don't have anybody to connect with. If I can go all the way back when I first got introduced to God, I went to my aunt's church. My foundation is United Holy.
Oh,
Well, that church,
nice.
it was just, they call us the shouting folk praise, and it was strange to me. It was even more strange because I wasn't accustomed to it, but it was
Mm,
just the older crowd was there.
mm,
You see, I didn't look around and see anybody that was like me. So when a young person do come in, they grab you for Youth Sunday, but you kind of
mm.
feel like I don't want to do this because ain't nobody else doing it. So that was a struggle for me around high school time. So I can relate to what you're talking about. It was like around
Absolutely.
high school, and that was like you. It's like the Lord comes in and kind of taps you on your shoulder, and you like, I'm young. I want to explore. I want to experience, but the Lord is tapping me. So that's a tug
Yeah,
of war.
it
That's a
is.
tug of war. That's why I like, as I went through your book, I'm gonna highlight some of the stuff that you have even said, some of the chapters. But I want to know, do you feel your audience, is it catered more to the younger or to the older audience? The older, what we like to call in church, the seasoned folk.
The seasoned saints, the seasoned saints. Yeah, I love the question because really
Mm-hmm.
my targeted audience, even though in the title is conversations being young and in ministry,
Mm-hmm.
my audience is actually the younger generation and the older generation together
Oh.
because it's really impossible for us to be effective in the kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
one separated from the other. Like the Bible talks about the young people being used of God because they're strong, but the older people being used of God because they're wise. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
like strength without wisdom, like it's not really going to get too far. And then at the same time, wisdom without strength is not going to get as far. So there has to be this partnership. And so I even write a chapter where I call it a term I created. And
Mm-hmm.
I joke and I say when you have a bachelor's degree, you can make up words, and it's a joke.
Yeah,
But
I know.
but what I called it was intergenerational partnership, where we have the older generation and the younger generation. Because listen, the older generation is just as valuable as the younger generation, and
Right.
at the same time, the younger generation is just as valuable as the older generation. But we can only make the impact that God wants us to make if we are working together. It can't happen aside or apart from each other.
Right. You can't be separated. The household of faith is not supposed to be separated anyway.
Exactly.
You're not supposed to. And even I'm still a young woman. Even though I'm doing all, different things, it's very important. I love diversity. So not just do I bring in different cultures, I like to bring in different issues. So I
Absolutely.
cannot, even though this is ministry, it's talking about God, I can't just counsel him out altogether. This is something that needs to be dealt with because you don't never know who may see this and be like, hey, I understand where he's coming from, or they may want to purchase your book, after this, because some people probably have never even seen you before, that are being introduced to you, and you may say one word, or this conversation may spark something, and they go like, you know what, I kind of understand where they're coming from, a little bit. The household of faith not supposed to be separated. It's
Absolutely.
supposed to have a special love. And even in the Bible, now I always say this because I don't like to walk around thinking I know everything or people
Right.
think I know this. No, the household of faith, when he said have a special love, he didn't put any age with it.
Right.
A lot of certain scriptures from the Old Testament to the New, it doesn't place emphasis on age.
Right.
So I think a lot of that's man-made.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that, or you?
I agree. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. And I think that sometimes we kind of come in, like you alluded to, we come into church and we make our own rules. Like we say
Mm-hmm.
that, you have to be this age in order to serve God. And even for myself, when I came into ministry, and it wasn't my church that told me this, but in my own head, I thought that in order to serve in ministry, like, you should at least be like 30 something. You should at least be 35. Like, it only makes sense. Like, what does a 20 something or a teenager have to offer? That was my thought process. That wasn't anything my church taught me. That was my own self. But there are churches that kind of teach that theology, so to speak, where they say that in order to preach, in order to serve, you have to be in your 40s and 50s. And God's like, not so. Like, God, if he can lay his hand on a child, you know, he can lay his hand on anybody. There is no age restriction. And in the same way, like, you're not too young to serve him, but you're also not too old to serve him. Like, who told somebody that just because you're 66 years old that you can't start preaching now? Like, if God said now, then obey him, trust him. Like, now's the time.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just like Nike, right?
Just do it.
Yeah, just do
it. There's no, I experienced that. I was asked to go speak on a topic in a certain church. And what I thank God for this older woman, I will never forget her. She told me, and she came to me to get it right. She said, when you got up, she said, she judged me based off my appearance. Much younger then, but she looked at me and said, Lord, what is she going to do? I would have never known if she didn't come to me and tell me that. But she said, Lord, I got to get it right, because she said when I began to speak and open my mouth, she said she felt condemned. Something came over her. She had to come to me and say, I am sorry. Ask me for forgiveness just for her thinking that. Yeah. When you do something like that of any age group, but even though if the older ones do that, you see how I'm young, I never forgot it. She could be, have passed away by now. But I never forgot how that woman came to me and said, I need you to forgive me because I judge you because you're young and I was basing off your appearance. And the Lord let her know that no, I'm with her. So that's why I said that when I was reading the book, all of those experiences in the church, and when I sat back monitoring the difference in the older and the younger and the groups, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the church. I kind of like all of it was coming back to me. That's why I'm very intrigued by your book, Justin.
Thank you.
Am I talking too much?
No, it's fine. I do have one thing that I want to say that came up as you were talking. Just as the lady, she judged you because of the way you look. It brought back to my mind in the Bible when the prophet Samuel, he goes to Jesse's house, right? And he's like, he's looking to anoint the next king. And it's funny to me how David, who was the youngest of all of them, was the one who was, like, oh, he's just David. He's just, he's just with the sheep. He just, protected them. And he was really, just put to the side. And they thought that it should have been one of the older ones, but why couldn't have been David? And it turned out to be David. So sometimes the one that is pushed to the side or the one that is looked over is the one that God is trying to anoint. But, the prophets can't see things through their own eyes or from their own perspective. Like, we have to see things through God's eyes so that we can actually make God's choices and affirm his decisions.
Right. I absolutely agree, which brings me to on page 35 of your book. Now, this chapter is the pressure to be perfect. And when you go through little hits like that, like we was mentioning about David, or what I went through, you feel like when you're young, you're being judged by the older crowd, but they feel you're young. What's she gonna do? And then you have the younger folk, your generation, looking at you like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
So there's pressure there. You're like, Lord, I'm stuck in between. You tapping on my shoulder. What is going on?
Right, exactly.
So this title, the pressure to be perfect. Tell us a little bit about that. The chapter.
Yeah, the pressure to be perfect. The idea for the chapter was really birthed through a personal experience. And as you read the book, you will find that the book gets more and more transparent as you go through. I was sharing an experience that happened to me in the year of 2017, a great year. I was preparing myself to graduate. It was awesome. I was, getting my cap and gown. I paid that good. I think it was $56, $56.40. It was, I paid it. And so I bought it, and I was taking my last finals, writing my like final papers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was preparing to cross the stage. And, as you can imagine, I was preparing to do this for years. So this was
Yeah.
an exciting time, but everything that I was so excited about would really turn to really deep sorrow for me, because there was a class, being transparent, there was a class that I needed to pass that I didn't pass. And so
Mm-hmm.
everything that I was preparing for, it quickly was brought to a halt simply because I didn't pass the class. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was thinking to myself, okay, like how does this make sense? How can I tell someone that I didn't pass the class? Like, there were people who looked up to me as not only a minister but a worship leader, and there were older people who
Mm-hmm.
grateful that I had their support. There were younger people who looked up to me as an example. And so how can I look a teenager in his face, encouraging him to do better in school, and I didn't pass my class? And
Mm-hmm.
not only that, but I have a church, a great, phenomenal church that really affirms academic achievement. So there, it's not uncommon to come to Cathedral International and to see people with doctorate degrees and PhDs and these high
Mm-hmm.
achieving people. And my bishop himself
Mm-hmm.
has a doctorate in ministry. So how do I go up to them, people who, you want your church family to be proud of you? How do I go up to them and tell them that I didn't pass my class? I didn't know. And being honest with you, I really, I write it in the book that I felt my world starting to spin, and that wasn't me being dramatic. I really felt myself starting to have a panic attack, and that was the first time I ever experienced that. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that the need for people who are in ministry, there's a need that we feel like we have to be perfect, because if we're not perfect or the closest thing to perfection, we feel that people won't take us seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We feel like people
Yeah.
won't listen to our voice. They won't listen to our sermon. If we
Mm-hmm.
post a sermon on YouTube, it's like, okay, that's cool, but he failed. He failed, and then they're just gonna, you didn't even
They
get the
remember
5 minutes
that.
of your message. Like, you were just getting to the intro of the sermon, and they just swiped you off and cast you aside. But we really aren't perfect. There is no such thing as perfection, and perfection is unattainable.
Right. It is. It's hard to be. It's hard to be perfect in this flesh. You're born into sin and shaped into iniquity, and every day you have to. It's a tug of war, because a part
Yeah,
of you want to do what you were born into, but the other side is saying no. You got to do this. You're being called. So I don't know about anybody else, to be transparent. There are sometimes I find myself like it's a tug of war, and then a lot of times you said the pressure to be perfect is because when I was reading it, we don't like people judging us, but they
at
do.
all.
People will look at you and be like, I have people look at me like, she's doing that. What's she gonna do? I
Right.
now the Lord has dealt with me so much. I look at them and I just start giggling. I just start laughing on the low, because I said, you apparently don't know me. First of
Right.
all, as you grow in God, you get more mature,
Right.
and he makes you stronger. Them storms, them
Yeah,
storms will make you stronger. You get to
they
the point
will.
like, think what you want to think. See you later. As
Yeah,
long as you keep moving and keep going, and that's what you did. You still got your degree. Make sure I say
absolutely.
that. You still, as a college graduate, and you
Yeah.
still told that testimony. And so I like that about you, that you was willing to say, here's a season of weakness
Hmm.
that I experienced, and look what God has done for me. That's what people need to hear. That's what people need to hear, not the perfect
The
church.
grandeur.
Yeah, they need to
Yeah.
hear like just. I mean, just tell it like it is. Get from behind the bush.
Yeah, right. And the beautiful thing is that in those seasons of weakness, as you said, you will quickly find that God really does work all things together for the good. Like, that's not a cliche. That's not something that we just read
Hmm.
about in scripture. Like, it comes alive in our lives. Like for me, I was so just sad that I couldn't graduate in
Hmm.
2017. But little
Yeah.
did I know that all of my closest friends, that they were graduating in 2018. So because, and I'm not, justifying the failed class, I had to retake it. But once I
Hmm.
got my stuff together, I was able to walk with my closest friends, all of us. We all graduated. Me, Ashley, Zach, Danielle, like so many names. We all, huh?
I said, you see there, but you still graduated, though.
Yeah, but I still graduated. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I would, that's the thing I will focus on. And that can encourage those who may want to go to school, but feel like, I can't do this. I can't do that. When it comes to college, don't cancel yourself out. Try it and see.
Yeah.
Don't cancel yourself out. So on page 59, another chapter in your book is chapter 9. It's called Comparison Kills. And I underlined this statement in your book. It said, in this song, Jonathan highlights our world and our culture, the need to be affirmed through our social media accounts. The reason why I highlight that, because social media, people get caught up in that. Mm-hmm. And I talked about that actually on the radio show. People get caught up with certain things that cannot make an impact to their income statement, to their accounting books. Mm-hmm. And there's no long-term effects. So it's like, why get caught up in it? Some people get caught up in you being creditable or mm-hmm. something of worth if you have a lot of numbers. So I want you to kind of break that down, that chapter for us and that statement that you did.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm just, flowing off of transparency here. So mm-hmm. for me, I realized that comparison, it really does kill, especially when you see people on social media accounts. They are achieving and they are doing this. They're mm-hmm. Getting jobs and careers and everything looks good on the social media account. But for one, you don't know what it took for them to get there. Like we see like the picture and that's all, all cool, but we don't know like the tears that went behind it. We don't know all like, and anyway, for me, I was on social media scrolling, and after graduating in 2018, it was great. God had fulfilled his promise, so that was awesome. But then after graduating, I realized myself, I'm 23 mm-hmm. at the time, and I'm realizing it's very difficult to get a job, being honest. And so I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I'm plugging away, putting applications out upon applications. But then I go on Instagram and I see someone who I graduated with, or someone who graduated in my original 2017 class, mm-hmm. that they have a job and they're making this amount of money. And, you start to compare. If you be honest, you're saying like, okay, like I'm happy for them. You're never, being a hater or, drinking haterade. Like no one has time for that. You're happy mm-hmm. for them genuinely, but at the same time, you're saying to God, like, okay, like what about me? What about me? Yeah. So I think social media can feed into that, but that's on the con side. But on the pro side, we really do need to share our testimony, because if we, rejoice with them who rejoice, after a while, our time will come. And here I am. I moved to Pittsburgh, like I said, working with a great team of ministers and missionaries with urban mm-hmm. impact. And literally this time last year, I was working in Target. I was the guy, behind the register, beep, beep, would you like your red card today? That was me this time last year. But God is so faithful. He's so mm-hmm. faithful. So if we take our eyes off of other people and their accomplishments, and we really plug into prayer, we will see that God will give us the answers that we need.
Yeah, because it takes time, which is going to go to my next thing that we're going to talk about. We look at, I think everybody is guilty of it. We look at the other person and you kind of wish and want. And it's hard to get to the point of saying, Lord, what do you have for me? I will tell anybody, if you're in the same season I'm in, when you get to a certain point, you're like, okay, instead of me focus on that, Lord, where's my ram in the bush? I know there's a ram caught in the thicket somewhere. Focus on that. Because I know, in other words, let me break it down. Lord, you got something for me. Now, either, we need to have a meeting. We need to have a meeting. I need to find out what path I need to get to, who needs to be in my life and who needs to go. Because especially if he's calling you to something greater. And if you want something greater, you can't look at social media accounts. It's hard though, because we're human.
We
And we
are
have a
human.
tendency to do that. You can't look at other people so much. You got to look at it's. You got to focus and say, Lord, okay, I need to seek you. For
Yeah,
those who are
absolutely.
interested, I need to seek you. I need to turn, and I need you to help me to focus on you. Because I don't need to get with something or be with something that's not going to, get me to where I need to go. A lot of times we have to stop and examine ourselves and find out
Absolutely.
what is it. What is it that's kind of holding everything up?
Yeah,
And that right there, that is something to get
I
to that point.
appreciate it. Yeah, I really, the picture that I just got in my head is, if we're driving and we're on the freeway, if you drive the whole way and you're just looking out, the window to your left, like after a while, you're going to crash because you're not looking to the one who's ahead of you. So it's like, and that's a lot of the time, that's what we do. Like we crash and, like our purpose is here and we miss it. God's like, it's like right in front of you. You're so close. We miss
Mm-hmm.
our purpose because we're comparing ourselves and contrasting ourselves to, the Chrysler and the Civic. And here we are in our hoopty. It's like if you're in a hoopty season, that's okay, but
Yeah,
you just have to keep on going forward.
I call it a smoking joke.
A smoking joke.
If it
Yeah.
gets you to and fro, so that's all right. After a while, God gonna bless me with something else.
After a while, yes, he will. He really will.
That's what I call it, because there was time I can remember way back, especially when we first came to this move to the South. We had like a little smoking joke. That's what I call it.
Okay.
That's what because I said it smokes, ma, and it's a joke. But
Got
after a
it.
while, God began to change things around. I don't know what kind of season would you call it, but it's really them testing seasons. It's
It's a
good.
hoopty season. It is. Even if you're not driving one, you can just call it a hoopty season. Yeah.
If you can hold on and make it through that, you will be
Yeah.
surprised really trust him. You'd be surprised what God would do for you. And a lot of times I'm learning when things get really tough and you being attacked, it's because there's something great coming. And
Yeah.
so you can't be distracted in that. I don't care how old you are. You can't be distracted because something great has to be on its way. Otherwise, I wouldn't be going through the attacks that I'm going through. So that's something for everybody,
Absolutely.
to encourage the people to think about. Because on page 43, the next chapter, okay, I'm going to be highlighting different chapters in his book, y'all. It's called It Takes Time. Now, you talked about David, and you talk about how many years, how long it took David to get to where he was. And it's amazing. He had Saul in his way. So I want
Right.
you kind of with I don't want to do too much talking, and I can't. I'm sorry if I am. It's bubbling.
It's okay. Listen, it's a conversation. That's what this is. It's a conversation. Pun intended. Yeah. It's good.
It's just bubbling coming out. But I want you to kind of talk a little bit about that chapter. But I love that chapter.
Yeah, absolutely. In the chapter, It Takes Time, I spoke about David, who it was interesting to me as I was thinking about his life that, a few minutes ago, I was talking about how David was anointed as the next king, anointed by
Mm-hmm.
Samuel, but he was anointed years before he actually
Mm-hmm.
was able to
Mm-hmm.
walk in the office that he was anointed for. So I think that there are a lot of us that we get in a space or position where we kind of are, like the movie with Ice Cube, like, are we there yet? We
Yeah.
really, yeah, we really wonder that because like God speaks a thing and we're saying, okay, God, you gave me the promise, you gave it to
Mm-hmm.
me. How come I'm not seeing it
Right.
yet? And I was even thinking, I didn't put this one in the book, but I was thinking about Abraham. Same thing. He was given a promise that he would have a son, and
Mm-hmm.
his name would later be Isaac. But Abraham got impatient, and so he gets with Hagar and has Ishmael. But
Yeah.
Ishmael wasn't the promise. Isaac was the promise. And so
Yeah.
sometimes we do the
Mm-hmm.
same thing where we literally thwart the promise of God, kind
Mm-hmm.
of making our own makeshift blessing. But that's not what God wanted for us. So it really does pay to endure the process, even when it's difficult. It's cold seasons, but we have to travel that lonely road so that
That's
we
that
can really
smoking
see
joke.
God's intended blessing.
Yeah, that smoking joke season.
That
That's what
smoking joke season. Yep.
them smoking joke season. A lot of times people are very humble. I'm noticing they're very humble. I heard many preachers preach on it. that you're humble when you first come in, you're humble when you didn't have, and then sometimes when we start getting, they kind of like forget this and forget that. You can't forget when you
You
start going.
cannot. You cannot. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Like I agree with that. There are some people who like they're ministers or they're worship leaders or whatever they are, and they've had so much practice because it's really a basic rule that the more you do something, the better at it you're going to get.
Yeah.
And so they are skilled, they are excellent communicators, they are excellent songwriters or whatever their ministry's style is. But then
Mm-hmm.
they see that person who is a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old kid, and they just forget about them. You know, like they have a call on their life. Like rather than just talking about that 13 or 14-year-old kid that comes up to you and they express to you that they have a call on their life to serve or to minister or to be a missionary or whatever they're called to do. Like
Mm-hmm.
instead of just overlooking them, like it would really behoove you to be for them what you didn't have yourself. You know, be a mentor
Exactly.
for them, like cover them, teach them, and you know they don't have to walk in the office that you're walking in right now. But listen, it
Mm-hmm.
takes time. You can walk with them over the years, and you can be proud that God used you to be a blessing to them and to mentor them.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of the seasoned saints, a lot of the older generation should do. That's what, if you, I mean, we stick to the Bible. That's what mothers and fathers should be doing. You have to set like a show enough example, all the way up to the end. In my opinion, a lot of the problem is we don't have good examples.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I said it. I'm gonna say it again. We don't. We do not have good examples, and that's what this generation is in need of. I think everybody's in need of knowledge. Everybody's
Absolutely.
in need of wisdom, but we lack good examples. Someone that we can pat it behind. One thing where everybody should get rid of is this perfect thing. I
Yeah.
don't see how you can be perfect. If I was like a pastor, I would say, you following Christ, you following
Right.
God. He's perfect. Now, me, I gotta repent every day.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta get it right.
Yeah.
I gotta like stand before Him like you do. So it's very important to let your people know that. But then, be a good example because you never know who's watching. You never know who's watching you on the low. Especially if you're in ministry, and then let them know about the process of growth. Everybody wants to get stuff quick, fast, in a hurry. It would be nice, Justin, if we could. It really would, but it just don't
It
work.
would be. It
It,
would be.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that as much as it is true that perfection is unattainable, I think that like we should hold that in one hand, but in the other hand, we should let people know that we
Mhm,
have to live according to a standard. Because I
mhm,
think that we have this thing where we make mistakes and people just like sleep with however many people they want to sleep with, and this isn't judging anybody
mhm.
because the love of Jesus is here and there's no condemnation in Christ. But people just have no standard, and their excuse to justify it is, "Oh, well, I'm not perfect." Like, so when I say that perfection is
Mhm.
unattainable, I'm not trying to give you license and grounds just to do whatever in God's name you
Right.
want to do, because
Mhm.
we still have to live. Like you said you were a part of United Holiness Church, so you know
Right.
about it. Like holiness is still not only right, but it really is necessary.
Yeah, and even the church that I'm in, they often mention that as well.
Yeah.
It's a just different setting. It's a different type church, but it took me a minute to kind of get used to because it's not nothing from where I came from.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how when I first started going, how that church helped somehow the way they did helped to break certain things in me at
Mm.
that time. And this is why the church is very important of all age groups. You never know how someone feel on the inside and what
Mm.
they're holding and what they've been through. Everybody's not going to meet somebody. Everybody's not going for a social hour. There's
Mm.
plenty of stuff you can do on a Sunday, okay? But sometimes people are going through something that you don't have a clue. And they're
Right.
going in there smiling. They go to work smiling. You think everything is cool, but they're hurting. They
Right.
could be in pain. It could be something deep. And just by going, and keep going and being in there among the people. It's a pretty big church, but there were certain ones that was around me that kind of helped break. I mean, all age groups. They were being like super nice, reaching out. They helped to break that little wall that was there. So this is why in the beginning, for those of you who just came in, it doesn't matter how old you are. Justin's book is all about starting a conversation so that the older generation, young, can come together, understand. When you have unity in the church,
unity, yeah, really is key.
When you really join together, what can the devil do?
Yeah.
And that's what people are missing. But we're so like in your book, what I see is we're so focused on pressure being perfect. We're so focused on social media. We're so focused on this, and we forget about that there's a little looming enemy coming roaming around here.
Yeah.
He's gonna hurt everybody. And then there's so much. I want to be superstar. You got to get back to the basics. That's something.
Yeah.
I'm just telling it like it is, y'all. That's how I feel. So, Justin, tell me if you plan on writing another book. This is the book, y'all. Where can they go to get this book, to purchase this book from you?
If they want to purchase Conversations Being Young in Ministry, they can go to Amazon.com. It is currently listed as a paperback version, a Kindle version, and I have a very, very special announcement. Excuse my voice. A very special announcement for everyone. Yeah, my announcement is that I am getting ready to release an audiobook version as well. I read a statistic that said that 70% of readers, they're not into the paperbacks anymore, and I love paperbacks. That's me. That's my bread and butter. But for some, they might be in the car going through, much traffic on the way to work, and they're trying to kill time. And so, listen, I have something just for you. I have a audiobook that's coming out. It will be released by November, so I want you guys to keep on the lookout for that. And yeah.
Okay, so then are you going to have like another book coming out by chance?
You know what? I have plans to write another book, and when it does, I'm going to give more announcements. But I do, to be honest, I was very inspired when there was a preacher who came to my church, and his name is Dr. William Watley. So if you guys know Dr. William Watley, he is the man. And he's the man all over the United States. Anyway, he came to my church and he preached. He is in his mid-70s. And before he preached, he gave his testimony of how he has written, I believe the number was 33 books. And so that really encouraged me. And I was like, wow, Dr. Watley, I like the example. So I'm going to be writing books for the rest of my life. So my next book, it will be coming out. And when I have the title, I will definitely be sharing it with you.
Yeah, that's good, because I really like this book. I went through and I actually underlined it. When I read books, I be like underlining. I'm that type of person.
That's the way to go. That's the way to go.
I don't like a whole lot of highlighters though, because when I open it, I don't want it to blind me.
Got it.
Back in the day, that I had the purple, the yellow, and the orange, and the blue. I said, "Darn."
Yeah. Listen, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, I just use a little pen, give me a little sticky note, and go on my way.
Yeah, do what you got to do. Yeah.
But some people do the audio, they can listen to it. But sometimes I want what we call it, the seasoned folk call it the Old Faithful. Old Faithful,
yeah.
When you get the book, because everything is like on the pad. I got little books on my iPad too. But sometimes you need a book. I need a book.
You need something that you can run your fingers through. Yeah.
Yeah. I understand. Like, okay. And let me write. Let me make notes.
Yeah.
That's what I like. I said, let me tell everybody, I'm young, but I still got an old spirit about me.
That's all right. That's all right.
Old foolish about me, all balled up and
yeah.
So that's what I'm about. Do you have any upcoming events? Because I know you're a minister and you're in the outreach as well. Is there any upcoming events you have going on?
Yes, I do have an upcoming event. It is not my personal event. It is an event for Urban Impact Foundation here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have a big event that we are preparing for, and it is called Light the Night. So if we were in church, I would tell you to turn to your neighbor and tell them Light the Night is coming. But your neighbor may or may not be okay with that, so don't do it.
Yeah.
But so Light the Night is coming, and it is a very big production that we are working on. It's a Christmas production where we share the gospel story of Jesus and his birth. But the caveat is that we have not only staff who are going to be on the platform giving or sharing this story. We are going to have our children's choir, and the children's choir is bad, and I'm not being biased. The children's choir is really good. The children's choir has, I believe there are 100 children who are part of the children's choir. We also have a middle school, high school choir where there is about 80, 90 students in the middle school, high school choir, and we are commissioning them so that they can be built up in the faith, and we're equipping them so that they can share the gospel with others. So there's going to be choirs and dancers and a young jazz band of middle school students, and just it's going to be a big
like a youth explosion.
Yeah, kind of like a youth explosion, all giving the great story of Jesus. So that's going to take place here in Pittsburgh at Christ Church of Grove Farms on December 6th and 7th. So we're getting the word out for that as well. It's going to be a great time.
100 children in the choir.
100 children in the choir, yes.
Y'all gotta have about 10 choir directors.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of directors, a lot of staff, but the interesting thing is they commission or they build up a lot of volunteers as well. So there are, I believe the number was about like 150 volunteers who serve in different areas, and they come, they don't get paid. The rest of us are raising our support as urban missionaries, raising our support to be here. The volunteers, they come out of the goodness of their heart, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. The church I'm in, they do a lot of outreach, and they have a lot of volunteers. What I like about it is that they're active, and that's the main thing. Is to continue to be active. It's more than that, but I like the fact that they're active in the community. Well, Jessica, I have enjoyed this conversation, and I hope those who are watching and those who watch the replay enjoyed it as well. This is part of the lifestyle discussion series because I'd like to hit on anything pertaining to lifestyle, entertainment, and business. And when it comes to church, when it comes to ministry, especially the time that we're living in now, it's part of lifestyle. It needs to be a part of your lifestyle, to help you get through them hard seasons. I'm telling you, them hard.
Absolutely, yeah. What was it that you called? We need to make a T-shirt.
Oh, I forgot.
The hard T-shirt. I said hoopty seasons. You said
the smoking joke.
The smoking joke. Yeah, we need to make a T-shirt. We have
to. I'm not picking on nobody else now. When I say smoking joke, I'm talking about what we had. We had a smoking joke because I looked at it, I was shaking. I said, well, But after a while, God, switched things around. And when you in church, when you're trying to, do for the Lord, it's like it goes up and down. You got your high moments and you have your low moment. It goes up and down. But if you can maintain your integrity like Job did, and if you can maintain your faith and reach out towards God when you lose your own strength, and that's another thing, don't lean to your own strength. That's
absolutely.
For me, that's a no. I lean on His strength, you can make it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you said maintain like that Jonathan McReynolds song. Help you maintain.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thank y'all for watching the Lady Boss Show. Tune in the next time when I go live, and also listen out for me on I Worship 96 FM every Wednesdays, 12 o'clock noon, because the Lord has expanded. From here, the Lord took it to the radio platform. So I'll see y'all next time.
And thank you so much for having me.
All right, you're welcome. All right, y'all. Smooches, everybody.
See y'all soon.